and welcome to BSB Must Reads, where we tell you all the books you must be reading. And today's author, I know, needs no introduction. How you doing, Lee Lynch?
I'm doing just fine, Sandy. How about you?
That's great. It's currently pouring rain here on Labor Day,
but it's very sunny here. Come on over.
That's perfect. I'm jealous. So Lee Lynch is just such a trailblazer in our community. I'm sure most of you will recognize her and have read her work. But in case you haven't, she is author of the classic novels, The Swashbuckler, Toothpick House, some more recent books with BSB, The Raid, Beggar of Love, Sweet Creek, Accidental Desperados. She was the namesake and first recipient of the Lee Lynch Classic Award from the Golden Crown Literary Society. And she lives with her lovely wife, Elaine Mulligan Lynch, in the Pacific Northwest, where apparently it is sunnier than it is here in upstate New York.
Yes. But we have a lot of fires, so.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that offsets it. The water does help with that.
Yes.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for being here, Lee. And we are going to discuss your newest collection with Bold Strokes, which is actually a collection of short stories that you have written over the last 25 years that we've finally been able to put together. And so I wanted to ask you, before we jump into your reading, what is it that prompted you to do that, to go through this process of collecting all these stories that you've written over the last quarter decade and finally put them all together in a collection?
I'm not sure what started it. I was already overworked. But I have a friend who is a publisher who said, you know, if you ever want to do that, but, you know, make a collection of your stories, I'd be interested. So I wrote to you, the Bold Strokes books, and said, hey, this makes me think I should ask you guys if you're interested. and thankfully, Bold Strokes is a great supporter of my work and was willing. But I don't think the idea really did come from me. I think Elaine's talked about it, but I'm just always so involved in my own, you know, whatever I'm currently working on, that I resent taking time from it. But it worked out this time. Thank goodness for you and Radcliffe and Ruth Sternglantz, the editor. You made it possible.
Wow.
And Elaine, who did all the scanning and all the formatting of the earliest stories, which had never met a computer. They were all either handwritten or typewritten. So they had to be put into a form where Bold Strokes could actually use them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that she did that work to preserve these stories. You know, and now there's a digital edition, so they'll be available forever.
Well, let's hope for politically, nobody shuts us down.
Yes, for sure.
They can't burn all the books, but they can turn off whatever they want.
It's true. Well, now we have both. So hopefully, no matter what happens, there will be a record.
And I'm really grateful to Bold Strokes for that.
Well, we're grateful for you. We wouldn't have it to publish without your amazing work and your amazing legacy. So, I think she just rolled her eyes. I just got an eye roll from Lee Lynch, you guys. All right. Without further ado, we are going to jump into your reading. So if you could tell us a little bit about the story that you're going to be reading from, because this is a collection of short stories. And then you can jump in and start reading whenever you like.
I'm going to be reading it at the instigation of the editor, Ruth Sternglantz, the first At a Bar story that I wrote, which was a series of stories written out of vast nostalgia for New York City, where I grew up and came out and went to the bars. So I created my own bar to play in and my own bartender. It's a series. There might be about 12 of them in the book. Defiant Hearts. This is Anne McMahon's amazing cover. And the bar itself is located in Lower Manhattan in a kind of warehouse district, and has not yet been gentrified. The owners of the bar are Sally and Liz, and most of what this is mostly point of view, if not completely point of view of Sally, the bartender. So it's called At a Bar in the Morning. Sun rays fell like cobwebs through the dusty bar window. The small room held several round formica-topped tables between the short counter and the window. On one side of the door to the back room stood a shining new jukebox whose flashing lights made it look like a visitor from the future. On the other side of the door, garishly painted women in bathing suits posed on an old pinball machine with an out-of-order sign. Sally, the bartender, skinny as a bar rail and tall, with a cap of short blonde hair, leaned over the bar on her elbows to stare past the Café Femmes window sign. She smiled to see Gabby's short, bobbing figure beyond it. Ah, breathed Gabby as she pushed through the door, sounding the cowbells that hung there to warn Sally of customers. Ah, yourself, Junior. Gabby protested indignantly, fists on her broad hips. What's the matter with you that you call me Junior every morning now, Sal? I'm pushing 40 like you. She took off her plaid wool jacket and climbed onto a stool, shaking her sweatshirt away from her body and her worn work pants. Got hot out there. I'm sweating like a pig. Sally smiled at her. You look like a junior coming past that window, hurrying home. After my night on the town, where'd you end up last night, Gab? Here. Gabby sighed, looking bored. Liz said it was your night off. What'd you do? What I'd like to do more of right now, Sal. 10 a.m. fix coming up. By the time your unemployment runs out, you're going to be a real lush. Why the hell not? Challenged Gabby, downing the shot and picking up her beer. Hair of the dog, like they say. Sally ran her rag over the top of the bar, picking up the circle of moisture left by Gabby's beer. Nobody in yet? Gabby asked. You're first, as usual. Come on, Sal. Meg's here before me. Sally stretched her long body and yawned. You working all day, Sal? Somebody's got to keep you high. Thank goodness for that. Couldn't stand it otherwise. Can't you get into some unemployment program? And do what? Clean the streets? I'm not ready for that, no matter what the politicians think. Excuse me. It'd keep you away from the sauce a few hours a day. Gabby's face closed. Lay off me about that. This is my life. Sure. You know I don't want you to end up like Meg. She used to be so sharp and funny. She'd come in here Fridays after work in her business suit and have a mixed drink or two. You know I'll get back on my feet, Sal. I'll get a job. I'll find a girl. I'll get a decent place to work or to live. Right now, I need a vacation from everything. Don't you ever feel so damn tired you can't lift your head off the pillow in the morning? The only reason I get up is because there's a cafe femmes to come to. I'll get my energy back, Sal. Haven't I always before? I'm tired of falling in love, then breaking up, finding a job, then getting canned, making an apartment nice, then losing it along with my girl or my job. You can talk. You've got this place here, which Liz and I worked damn hard for. At least you had the wherewithal to get what you wanted. Not everybody can own a gay business. Gabby set her glass down hard. Let me have another setup. As she poured, Sally said, Liz told me Meg caged more drinks than usual last night. She shut Meg off, but we can't do anything about people who keep buying her more. What could happen to a rummy like that? What happens to the other rummies on the street? You think she can't get sick or hurt because she's a dyke? No, maybe. She's getting like the guys on the Bowery, isn't she? One step away, Gab, that's all. I can't believe that. They fell silent. The mailwoman, Jenny, pushed through the door and sounded the cowbells again. It's like I'm down on the farm when I come in here. How are you today, Sally? Gab, where's Meg? I don't know, said Sally. We've been talking about her. You see her around. Tell her to drop in, okay? Want a shot? Love it, honey, but that's all I need to do. Get caught smelling of it. I'll take another rain check. Sure. Anytime, Sally said, sorting through her mail. We'll see you later, right? Could be. It's Thursday. The door slammed behind Jenny, rattling the bell. Thursdays, Sally and Liz extended happy hour. Gabby rose, taking her beer, and wandered to the pinball machine. She said, Friday's a lousy day to look for a job, too. You know? Any day's bad from what you say, Gab. Really, Sal. Friday, the bosses are looking to sail their boats, not start someone new. Especially not someone who looks like me. How you look doesn't matter with the kind of jobs you're after. It shouldn't. Gabby pushed aside the out of order sign and put a quarter in the machine. You haven't fixed this yet? The repairman is supposed to come today. One stinking ball for a quarter. Keeps you on your toes. You need to do really well on one quarter. Here, take some replacements. She spilled some coins onto the bar. No, never mind. I'm not in the mood. Too much work. She watched Gabby walk to the window. Gabby spoke toward the empty street. You know how many damn girls I thought I'd be with forever? 5. 5 damn girls. Maybe it's me. When it comes to making it work, I don't have what it takes. Falling in love is fine. I have that down pat. But when love starts to be an uphill battle, I only know to take off, unless they leave me first. If only I could keep a job, or if we could adopt kids, that would make us work to stay together. Even if we had families who'd get upset about us splitting up, it would help. We come down here and what is there? A bunch of chicks looking to make it with somebody, no matter who or who it'll hurt. And like a damn fool, I can't resist them. It's so easy to cheat on your girl. Plus, when you're high, you don't give a rip until she finds out. So why try settling down? What's the sense? Sally was dusting the bottles behind the bar. Love has its good points, she said, thinking of Liz coming home that morning and slipping naked into bed with her. Thank you, Sandy.
Oh, I love how timeless your stories are.
Oh, good.
I was listening to that, and I feel like that could have been a conversation that I might have had, and that you might have had, and that anybody that we both may know could have had at any point. So thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Sandy. And thank you, readers.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm interested to know what inspired these short stories for you. And there are quite a few of them in this collection, so it may be different depending on, which story, but are you generally inspired by people or politics or something that you want to kind of have a record of? What is it that inspires you to write these stories?
I really appreciate your question. I'm usually inspired by geography and nostalgia. That's what moves me inside, because I want to capture that. I love settings and the details of settings, which is really obvious in the new books, the Rainbow Gap series, where I talk about Florida a lot. But really, I was inspired to, as Barbara Greer said, or instructed me, light up the skies for other lesbians. I wanted dyke stories out there in the future. I wanted to give enjoyment and reassurance that I needed and got from reading the few lesbian books there were. I never considered it a political act at all, or myself a political person. I just had a need to reproduce what I was living and what I thought other lesbians might need to hear.
Yeah. I have goosebumps. I don't know about you, but thank you. I mean, I don't think that companies like Bold Strokes and all the authors that have come after you, I mean, who knows what the world would be like without voices like yours to guide the way. So thank you so much.
You give me too much credit. There were a bunch of us. I mean, there was there were publishers and distributors and people like Carol CJ who would organize things. There was a little world of us making sure that things would feel better for later lesbians.
Yeah, for sure. So it kind of leads me into an interesting question. Did you ever think you would be where you are today? Did you think of your work as kind of your intention was to let's provide these stories for people who may need them? But did you ever look into the future and see yourself, oh, I could blaze this trail, or I could leave this legacy? Was that anything that you kind of intended when you started?
No, never, ever occurred to me. I was just hoping to reach out for that one lesbian like myself and my lover who needed the stories, who needed to see ourselves in print. The real trailblazers were Radcliffe Hall and Isabel Miller and Jane Rule, Valerie Taylor, Ann Down and Marjorie Meeker, and others. They're the ones who showed me what was possible and that I wasn't alone. I only wanted to give other dykes what those real trailblazers gave me. But as for seeing myself as a significant figure in anyway, no, I was just a youngster, didn't know what was right and what was wrong and how I should live, because we had no role models. And all I knew to write about was lesbian life. So I wrote about that and just hoped that I reached the women who needed what I had to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that I thought I had anything to say, but Barbara Greer pushed me. So
I hear she was known for that.
Yes, but also Judy Grahn suggests that I write fiction, and Adrienne Rich, when she and Michelle Cliff were running Sinister Wisdom, was the one who suggested that my first book, which had been a very long short story, was the germ of a novel.
Mm. I'm so glad to hear that you had your own version of trailblazers who, showed you the way too when you were young and just starting out writing as well. I think you're too modest, and that you do deserve a lot of credit for providing that same thing. But it's so interesting, kind of the different generations and who it is, that came before them that showed them the way. Thank you. So as we mentioned in the intro, these stories span just about 25 years. And I'm interested to know, has your writing changed over that time period? Like in terms of maybe what you were writing or how you're writing? That's quite a span of time in your writing career. Has your writing changed at all?
Not really. One of the things I always wanted to do was make my stories accessible to non-readers. Women who just, for whatever reason, couldn't read well, had reading disabilities. And so I always write not down, but as simply as I can. And that hasn't changed. I just want to get the story out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could play with it and make it prettier here, and maybe deeper someplace. But the basic idea was just to make them accessible. But since I started, and I've been writing since I was 14, I've had editors who taught me some craft. Not that I necessarily learned it or use it well, but I think I do. I think that hopefully shows. But I'm just after a good dyke yarn. Because in the end, speaking to what you said about the stories being timeless, we're still the same lesbians that we were. Our experiences may differ, like I'm using a computer now rather than a pad of paper, but our emotions don't change. I'm writing about the same people doing the same things, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's a really great point. And it is one of those aspects that make your work so timeless, even when it's set, because a lot of your books are set in the 70s, in these very specific time periods of lesbian history. But your characters and their relationships and their connections and their friendships and their struggles are, in a sense, timeless. So I really feel like this collection is both, a great kind of historical account of what life was like you're saying, the kind of geography of the time. It is a certain place and a certain time in history, but it's also timeless in that the human experience, hasn't differed. And I think you really capture that, and you don't need fancy words, and long sentences and, kind of a complex narrative to achieve the heart and the depth that you have in your work. You have such great talent.
You are overly complimentary.
Oh.
But thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'm always interested to know, for someone you've been writing since you were 14, and writing over such a span of years, is there anything that you've written that you would go back and change? Is there anything you would add to, anything that you would maybe not, want to publish today? Is there anything you would change?
Another good question. They all have been. Well, for one thing, I'd eventually like to do a second and last collection of the stories I've written and I'm writing after these. So I don't feel like I've left anything out or cut anything that I will regret not having in. But on the other hand, some of the stories are just plain embarrassing to me. And I was kind of hoping Ruth Sternglantz would cut those, but she didn't. And now I'm glad she didn't, because you just never know when you put something out there who it's going to touch.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
Yeah, I'm still left with that one tyke that needs to hear that one story. Yeah, no, I think that's all I had to say about that. I have no regrets. My plans for, and I'm about to turn 77. So my plans for the future for the next 30 years are to keep doing what I'm doing.
Excellent. I'm here for it.
I know you are.
I think that's a great point though, what you're saying about there are some stories that when you look back, you think, oh gosh, my writing craft wasn't where it is now. And I think so many writers have that experience where, you would want to go back and rewrite it and put all the talent that you've accumulated into those stories. But I also think they serve as the kind of encouragement to new writers, right? Because everybody starts somewhere. And they see someone of your reputation and with all the works that you have behind your name, and they see where you started, and it becomes a little more accessible for them too. So I think there's kind of an endearing factor in our first works. You can handle the cringiness of them for sure.
Right. I don't have to read them.
Well, thank you so much, Lee. This has been amazing. I know you don't do interviews very often, so I feel very honored. And please do check out Defiant Hearts, Lee Lynch's short story collection. You will find lots of heart, lots of depth, and lots of dykes.
Yeah.